It's official, folks, as Toronto Raptors fans had a lot of questions about this team, about this roster entering this NBA season. And finally, after a very long offseason, we got some answers to the most burning questions that Raptors fans have had regarding this team entering this year. And a lot of the answers we heard from Darko Rajaković, from Scottie Barnes, from Immanuel Quickley, Barrett especially, Brandon Ingram, Jakob Poeltl. A lot of the answers are very, very exciting to a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, and frankly, have my expectations raised from where they were even just a few days ago. So we're going to break down all of the comments that have been made by this Toronto Raptors teams, why some of the biggest questions that this team, fans of this team had entering the season have been answered, and why Raptors fans should be very, very excited about this upcoming season. So lots of stuff to break down. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it, as Darko Rajaković came out and directly stated it right from the jump that everything starts with Scottie Barnes. He's one of the most elite defensive players in our league. Our identity starts with him. I don't see a weak link for our team defensively this year. Now, of course, there have been a ton of quotes, a lot of comments coming out regarding, during this media day, lots of pressers that I'm going to be aggregating, put together out here in this video. But one of the most common themes, one of the biggest threads that happened with this Raptors plans and everything that everyone's talking about is on the defensive end. Darko Rajaković could not stop talking about how defense is the number one priority. No one gets any breaks, just because someone's a elite offensive player, that they could take a break on defense or anything along those lines. And he was adamant that this team is going to be built defensive first. And we know this roster, this team, of course, it's looking a little bit different this season. It's brought up, I'll show it on the screen here now, but was a top 10 defense in the NBA the second half of last year. Now, of course, the schedule was lighter. There was a lot of things factor. A lot of these players that are in the lineup right now weren't playing in those games the back half of last year, but nonetheless, Darko Rajaković was able to get this team to be a really effective defensive squad. So that is the calling card, and given this team, the guys that we have on this roster, where there are some question marks, Brandon Ingram, Immanuel Quickley is pretty solid, but a little bit undersized at their guard position, Barrett, who we'll bring up later. There are some guys that, you do have some question marks regarding their defensive ability, defensive prowess, but that is the calling card, the focus, and the thing that Darko's most impressed with. As said, he doesn't see any weak links defensively this year, so that is the primary focus of this team. Developing, getting 1% better every single day, and locking in on the defensive end. And of course, Scottie Barnes is the centerpiece of that. And Scottie had some quotes himself saying, "I feel like I'm one of the best two-way players in the NBA. I think our expectation from our team is definitely to make the playoffs and win some games in the playoffs. That's the standard. We are hungry, we've got a lot to prove, and we are going to go out and show it." Now, coming from your best player, this is exactly what you want to see from Scottie Barnes, who talks about being one of the best two-way players in the league, which he certainly is on the defensive end. And if he puts it all together offensively, there's no doubts about, in my head, that he could be one of those, Kawhi Leonard-esque, archetype builds, where they're elite defensively and absolutely elite offensively, especially with how good of a passer he is, the court vision, and just feel for the game. But Scottie Barnes is coming out a lot more confident, having the confidence of the coaching staff, of multiple years of rebuild now centered around him. He's ready to take this team to the next level. And even though Bobby Webster, Darko Rajaković haven't come out and said they expect the team to be competitive and stuff, haven't dropped anything directly, Scottie Barnes was adamant about a playoff berth, I guess, for this Toronto Raptors, this era of Toronto Raptors basketball, and most importantly, getting some playoff wins. So that is not a guy that's looking to take it easy. We're rebuilding, we're doing this the same way we got those quotes last year, which is a huge positive and different from what we're getting from Bobby. So that is big. And then Scottie also went on to say that being around Brandon Ingram and being able to see how talented he is phenomenal and can do so many things out there on the floor. He is going to help us out a lot this year. And Brandon Ingram, since the day he came, the entire Toronto Raptors organization has spoke very highly of him, the impact that he can have, all of those types of things. And honestly, I'm just amped up to see what people are saying about him in regards to his actual on-court performance. Because, of course, until you get to play with him, it's tough to get that feel. And Scottie Barnes having that confidence in his new co-star running mate, that is absolutely huge. And one thing to note as well before we move on from Scottie Barnes, that he took a couple weeks off after the season last year as he had a hand and pinky injury that he was dealing with that he had to heal. And he says he's feeling a lot better, and as a result, so is his jump shot. Now, The biggest criticism thrown the way of Scottie Barnes last year was his regression as a three-point shooter. At the start of the season, he was absolutely on fire. He was cooking. It was exciting. Scottie Barnes is taking that leap as a jump shooter. And as the season went along, the defense's focus went there, and some injuries piled up. Scottie Barnes' three-point shooting ended up falling off a cliff. It was a downward trajectory, which is not what you want to see from your young rising star. But this hand injury addresses why, the shooting regression ended up happening this year, and apparently he's feeling a lot more confident, as we've seen in off-season workout videos, in that jump shot. So that is a huge positive. But as Scottie Barnes brought up, there's another star out there on this team right now that he's going to be playing alongside with, and that is Brandon Ingram, who said, "It's been a long time since I've been on the basketball floor, so I'm excited to just get out there. I'm excited to bring my skills and make things easier for the other guys. A fresh start. Hopefully I can show my full thing." And then went on to talk about Toronto, say the most impressive thing for me is seeing every seat in the arena filled up every single game, no matter if we're winning or losing. That definitely wasn't there in New Orleans. Having every seat filled, everybody showing love, and you love to see it. So Brandon Ingram had some pretty, captivating quotes out there. I think it was Doug Smith talked about the threesome of, Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett, of course, using that unfortunate language there. It's, Ingram kind of teased that, said, no, we got to pause on that. But Brandon Ingram is locked in. He's loving Toronto. He's loving this. Of course, we have to see how it all works out there in the basketball court, especially with Darko Rajakovic's focus on the defensive end. But Brandon Ingram seems completely bought in. He's taking some leadership, getting the team together, all that type of stuff over the course of this offseason. So Ingram is fully locked in. I'm excited to see what he's able to do in a Raptors jersey. He talked about wanting to become himself, play his game, lean into that all-star form that he had a few seasons ago. Dealt with some injuries, a tumultuous, organization out there with the New Orleans Pelicans. He's looking for that fresh start with Toronto. And he also talked about how he's an underrated passer. He says, I don't know, I just think they don't expect me to pass them the ball when I get it. So, we've talked about Brandon Ingram's underrated skills as a playmaker, and that is something that is exciting to see. And he also talked about a guy that's on the Raptors roster that has been fairly underrated, in my opinion, as someone that started this movement of keeping RJ Barrett out here in the Toronto Raptors, a guy that's been underrated on this team for a very, very long time. Ingram directly addressed this. When he's asked about who surprised him the most on his team this summer, he said RJ Barrett. I thought he was just a gunner. I thought, he just shot the basketball, but I've seen what he works on and how he transfers the game. He's steady. He's been showing me a lot. And then, of course, RJ responded pretty candidly. RJ had a lot of energy, a lot of positivity, felt really, really good. This media day said, see, I passed the ball. I do. And RJ Barrett, of course, close to 5 assists per game last season. Like, he is an underrated playmaker. So, they're getting candid, but Brandon Ingram had some high praise for his guy, RJ Barrett, and RJ had some quotes there as well coming out this here. So RJ Barrett obviously coming out and saying that I've never been a horrible defender. So yeah, I was kind of confused about that, but I definitely have gotten better and want to continue to get better on the defensive end and be a complete two-way player. Now he's got the braids going, Kawhi-esque. They grow out a little bit. We'll see. But RJ Barrett has talked about directly, as this entire team, the theme of this entire media day has been on the defensive end. And I've been a proponent. People roast me. I'm all in the stance that RJ Barrett is not a bad defender. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's strong for his position. The one thing he can get caught reaching oftentimes out there on ball defense, can get lost in the other ends. But he is by no means one of those guys that just is horrible on that end of the floor. So, him being in the mix, confident and focused in that area of his game is going to be huge. And RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley both have chips on their shoulder right now. So basically, it's saying, this is one of the quotes that's coming from RJ Barrett, that there's definitely a huge chip on our shoulder, and I love it. This is one of the most fun times when you have a team like this where people don't know what to expect and kind of just go ahead and surprise people. We are very confident going in. And went on to say that now when you walk in the gym and you see this team, it's like, okay, we have a squad in here right now, and if things are about to go the right way, you got to approach the game the right way and good things will happen. Now with Brandon Ingram, Scottie, Quick, I'm going to be the one getting open shots, and I'm not complaining about getting open shots. So, they're talking about how much offensive firepower they have, and Immanuel Quickley echoed the same sentiment, saying that, if people are sleeping on him, he has a chip on his shoulder, all that type of stuff, and then addressed how he attempted 7 threes per game last season, and he thinks it could go up to 10 plus this season with all the attention that's thrown to Ingram. to Scottie Barnes as well as RJ Barrett that they're going to draw. It also thinks there's going to be a lot more catch and shoot opportunities, which of course a lot of basketball players hit at a higher volume. So Quick, RJ are in the same boat right now. Both of those guys feel like they are being underestimated by the NBA. They are being disrespected. And now with Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram out there in the mix for this team, their game is going to be unlocked this season. And for two young guards that are given the reins, hopefully healthy for this upcoming year, both of those guys being confident, ready to go, ready to be locked in is very, very encouraging if you are a Toronto Raptors fan. And as said, like they look at the roster, there's a lot of talent, and it's no secret. You add Brandon Ingram to the mix, it changes things. We're not going to hide from that with the elevated expectations that are going on this year. In a few months, that's going to be us. That's our mindset, referring to the Blue Jays, the winning vibe, and how they were a team that shocked everyone. Everyone picked them to be at the bottom of the AL East this season, and as I'm ending this video off, the Blue Jays are going to win the World Series this year. A lot of exciting playoffs, starting off this Saturday stuff. Definitely check that out. Check out Jays Digest as well if you want some deep dives on the Toronto Blue Jays, but I don't know. I think there was a lot of very, very positive quotes from this Toronto Raptors team throughout Media Day. It's official that this team is back. They are locked in, ready to go on the defensive end, and there is a serious chip on this team's shoulder that, frankly, you look at this roster, I'm standing on this, is a very, very talented team. So, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. I mean, if you made it this far, and you are a part, you're this far in the video, 11 minutes, 30 seconds, and you are a part of the 53% that have not hit the subscribe button. I mean, hit that sub button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team. Anyways, you guys are the best. Keep it locked to Raptors Digest. I'm signing out.